Ladies and gentlemen, it's real late. My name is Peter Rosenberg, and wow, it's always a pleasure when you get to sit down and have a conversation with a real-life friend who you've been just looking forward to catching up with in general. Asher Roth is here. Asher, how are you?
My friend. Good sir.
First of all, this is the first episode in a new era of my Real Late show, where I'm not saying it's not going to be about music, as you hear the sweet sounds of New York City in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
You know it's real.
So you know it's real, and I'm not saying it's not going to be about music still, because it will be. And my interviews have always been focused on other things that are not just music, but I do want to make a more like pointed effort for it to be about just all kinds of other things. So you being here is literally perfect, not only because I know you and can actually ask about your personal life, like your real life thoughts, but also I find where you've gone with your career and life to be inspiring in like a really, really real way. I truly admire the life you have carved out for yourself. And I was thinking about this today. Are there people in your life who root for you and love you who have not adjusted to the fact that your metrics have changed? And so like, hey, dude, when are you going to come with that next huge banger? And you're like, that's not my modus operandi anymore.
It's funny. I in coming here and thinking about some of these things, like, oh, is there going to be a conference? Like, because there's so much more interesting things than the music, right? And then you start talking about the music. And I would say, to answer your question immediately, I would say not really. I think it's more so would be fans. But and reflecting on kind of the earlier stuff of like actually still finding my voice and hearing some of these older songs that like, are, let's call them more accessible, and even like thinking about that joint Acting Up that I wrote that Justin Bieber was on and Chris Brown was on Greenhouse Effect Volume 2. Songs like that. I'm just like, I'm not even comfortable there. You know what I mean? So, when you start talking about carving out your life, it's like as you get older, it's not so much like a contentment or a comfort thing, but you do need to find a place where that feels right, because otherwise I just think, you're kind of living a life that you're just on edge all the time.
But were you comfortable with it then? Because you seemed mostly comfortable with it.
I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better, any different. And I think that there's still a part of me. It's not so much like we live in we work in a world that is very much a be careful what you wish for world, because especially if you don't know what's on the other side, right? So I think with why I'm actually proud of myself is because I was able to do that. I was able to make music that wasn't necessarily my forte, and write for other people and write for myself and write these songs that were, let's classify them as pop songs, alternative pop songs or whatever. That isn't necessarily my heart, and I was able to do that, which is a pat on the back for myself. I think when you're trying to be essentially versatile, that felt good. So I wasn't uncomfortable. It just was one of those things where it's like, is this what you really want to be doing? You know what I mean? Like to the point where I'm at a place now where we just got back from a tour in Europe, and coming off stage, it's like you can tell that like I'm at a point where I could feasibly stop playing I Love College. Now, that record means something to a lot of people, and it means something to me as well, because it means something to other people, like these memories and all of these things, this kind of transportation that takes place when people hear that record. But I'm at a place where I could essentially build a whole new set and a whole new, performance without including that song. So,
but you're not at the point where you're going to do that yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm still, I think about these things, and I think that might be a problem. And it was a problem for the business. I was like, well, why? And they're like, you don't ask why, dude. You just do it. And so, like, I think about performance. When you get on stage, what are you doing? And some people, you might just be getting on stage to collect your check. and go. I think performance, specifically stage performance, is really important. You have an opportunity to kind of leave an impression in the physical world. And so like for me, I'm kind of in a lot of ways developing almost a play that you go to, and like it's like acted out, and it busts into like musical, which just happen to be some rap songs. But you explain some context and give people insight into why this song and why now. So like, it's not that like I'm disinterested in making music that can reach a wide array of people. It's just that like, does it make sense for right now? And I think like specifically, if we wanted to start with a Sleep in the Bread Aisle project, I was so proud of myself. One, just tapping Oren, really, not coming into the space with like some enormous cosign outside of maybe Steve Rifkin at the time, who is still, you would still have to like probably check the Wikipedia. If you're not ahead, you probably don't really know who Steve Rifkin is and his contributions.
Right.
I think that's fair to say. You know?
Well, you ended up getting the drama and canon cosign
Sure,
too.
that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
But when you're talking about
I mean, from a producer standpoint.
right, but producer standpoint, you're talking about Oren Yoel, who he had no name prior to that.
Yeah. And
now he's done monster. Do you know the biggest thing that he's done?
Well, I know he's done Miley Cyrus. He's in with TDE now. He just was on the Absol record and stuff. So he's continued to work too, but kind of got caught in the similar spider web that I was in, because when he wasn't responsible for I Love College, but we were responsible for making I Love College make sense sonically. And so it's just like, dude,
what do you mean he wasn't responsible for? Who actually produced College again?
that was Mike Karen and Ben Allen.
Got it. Okay.
You know what I mean? And just like a beautiful, happy accident. And just taking all of these, influences at the time and writing a genuine journal entry. And I think when you talk about, I'm really intrigued with your life and where you've taken it from there. It's like, I'm about to turn 30. So it's like, I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait. I was like, wait, is he going past tense? This is deep.
No. So
wait, what are you? 30?
39.
39.
Yeah.
39.
So I'm, I think in a little bit, like I'm basically truly, this is middle aged, right?
I guess so.
I guess
Close to it.
But
I'm 6 years older than you. So
yeah,
yeah,
if you want to feel old, the guy that performs I Love College.
No, that's the clip I should put out.
For sure, man.
That should be the clip. The I Love College guy is 40, bro.
I know.
Do you get have you been put on? This is probably a stupid question, because the answer I assume has to be yes by people who don't know. Do you get put on one-hit wonder lists?
Yeah. I think.
By the way, there's some great people who ignorant people put on one-hit wonder lists.
Sure.
Like Diggable Planets is on a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
The Far Side is put on one-hit wonder lists by people who don't.
I've seen that.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean,
is it irritating at all, or do you have like no ego about it? You seem to have very little ego about the entire thing.
Well, it's tough. I mean, because in a lot of ways we work in ego. I'm competitive. Like I really want to, when I put out projects and I share stuff, I want it to be well received, and I want it to like do well, But I also am realistic about what I'm capable of at this moment in time with the resources that I have and the decisions that I've made. But as far as that starting point, right? If we don't have to disregard it, but like that starting point of Greenhouse Effect Volume 1, was like the excitement, right? And we are in a field and we work with excitement and inspiration. Is your act exciting? Are people interested in what you're gonna do? Cool, that happens. Then I Love College starts to kind of like bring context to it all, like gives a little bit of an identity. And I
Love College was not on Greenhouse Effect?
No, it
came
wasn't.
right after.
Yeah, it was.
Roth Boys was the biggest thing on Greenhouse
That's
Effect.
correct. And that's what's so amazing, man, is like we've known each other since then. And I think when you talk about like kind of ego or, humility about the whole thing, is like I take so much like pride in the fact that you and I can sit down and have these conversations 17 years later in such a dysfunctional business where people kind of like burn bodies as they go. It's like I can come back and I can sit down and have a conversation with you, who was realistically one of the handful of people, regardless, there might have been some friction. We're like, I don't know about this kid initially.
For like 10 seconds.
Yeah, as it should be.
Right.
Honestly, bro, when I reflect on my stuff, and especially as I get older and look at like entry points for other people, I would have hated what I was doing. You know what I mean? I'll be like, no fucking way.
And by the way,
dude.
what kind of me would I have been?
Exactly.
And the problem is, God, this is the most self-aggrandizing thing ever. But the problem is there just aren't enough people who are knowledgeable and passionate and are willing to say, I get this is hot, but can we hold on a second?
Sure.
And I felt at the time that it was very important, particularly with white artists, to do that. And I felt like I'm the perfect person to get to do that. Like me pulling the card of black artists in hip hop, don't get me wrong, it's as is well documented. I've done it. Didn't always go well. And in looking back at it, I'm like, kind of weird for me to be the person to have done that. But for me to have done that to other younger white kids getting into hip hop, as someone who really cared for the craft and kind of was trying my best, although I came up short at times, to be like a productive, supportive member of the hip hop community, of which I was a guest, but an active, participating, welcomed guest, it seemed, by a lot of people. Yeah, I thought that was the right thing to do. And I did it with you, and I did it with Mac, and I did it with many others.
Sure.
And yeah, it often ended up forging really positive relationships because the people who are really like about it, in the end, feel the same way and want to do the same thing to others who come after them. Like, wait, are you really true about this? Because like, we just fast forwarded 17 years later, and there were people out there questioning why were you in hip hop? What was your motive? Do you love it? 17 years later, a lot of those same people questioning you may not even have time to listen to a rap record.
Right.
And you are making music constantly and doing it for the love of music, make a few bucks and keep your life going as you do it, but nothing flashy.
Sure.
They don't even know that you're still doing it. It's your whole life.
Absolutely.
It's been your whole life.
Yeah, yeah. Which is so strange. I would not have known that to be the case. And I think truly as first entering it, I think that was a big, element of just like appreciation and respect of my position. And I think that in a podcast was with Nicholas F., I think maybe. You had mentioned, somebody sent it to me that you were like, yo, dude, like, I remember having a conversation with Asher of like, dude, you're lucky. You know what I mean? And again, when you're having your subjective experience, you don't know anything differently, right? So you're just like, and my experience at the time is like, internet is like starting its social media era, and some of the first things I'm putting out into the world are garnering attention, and attention from ambitious people, you know? And so I didn't know that I was like lucky. I'm like, yeah, like, this is how it goes. You know, this is what you do. You like put something out and people go, yo, you're dope. Come to Hot 97.
Right.
You know,
come do this concert.
And then
come collect this bag.
And you're like, by the way, dude, there's been people who have been trying to get on Hot 97 for 25 years. You know what I mean? Whatever it may be. And
well, the time when I remember the specific conversation I always think about with you was sitting in your kitchen at your little spot down, not little spot, big dope spot that you had downtown, right? Your like rapper pad that you first got when you lived in New York, where you really turned it into like a dope place for making music and hanging out, and you were awesome, and I brought all like my low budget friends over, and like we all hung out there, and it was great. And I remember sitting at like your kitchen table, and I guess the album cycle was kind of wrapping up. You know, you're probably already like a year past it or whatever, and you're like talking about gigs that you like didn't feel like doing.
I remember. I turned the show down. And
yeah,
you were like, dog.
I think it was like, by the way, so times have changed. This would have been even more, but it was like, $15,000 or something like that. And you're like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm having fun. And I remember being like, no, you can't turn down shows like that. But by the way, I'm thinking about this now. Neither of us were really wrong because you're really not motivated by doing random college shows for people who don't really care to collect a bag.
Yeah.
And you found your happy place without doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so tough, man, as far as like, you're actually right. And like, my thing is like, when I take a position of like trying to watch this whole thing is like, what does it what does it feel like, or what does it look like? What's the perspective if I show up to this spot on this day doing this type of show? You know, because I've done spot gigs, or, you know, taken a club date in San Diego and just been like, this is terrible. Like my act just doesn't go over well.
This is in somewhat recent times?
No, this is like, you know, back yonder. And I'm like doing like She Don't Want a Man in a club in San Diego. And I'm just like, dude. Like,
you're like, I'm doing my club song,
you know what
at
I
a
mean?
club where people don't even know the club song.
It's just all bad. It's just all bad. And so, but at the same time, it's like, even today, like a $15,000 gig is a great opportunity, you know, and, you know, I'm at a point now where I'm just like, it's just so fun. It's so exciting that anybody that you would be like, yo, come up and share your perspective and some of your work and your art. And like, that's awesome. That's such an exciting thing. But I mean, when I'm first starting, like, I'm a little protective. I'm kind of taking everything personally. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of scared in a lot of ways of just being like, what does this person think of me? I hope they like me. Like, all of those things. And they're still around. You know, you still totally, I don't know if you experienced this from your position, but like, you know, you have to like, when you do something and you open yourself up to criticism, like, and you have to kind of defend yourself, not only to other people, but then to yourself, it's exhausting. And I think dealing with that at such a young age, at like, you know, 22, 23, 24, not only am I like, do I belong here? Like, what am I doing here? Am I passionate about this? Is this what I want to be doing? Not only am I dealing with that myself, but then also dealing with the criticism of other people. It kind of makes you not want to do it. You're just like, damn, like, I'm basically, for the most part, defending myself against criticism more often than I want to. Now, don't get me wrong. The funny thing about art and entertainment in general is like, there are plenty of people saying, this is dope, this is exciting, giving you some praise, but for some reason that goes in one ear and out the other. You don't really hear the praise. Some people do, I think, but for me specifically, I wasn't. It was all about like, oh, this verse is whack. It's like, oh, it's true. This verse is, you know, not good.
And I guess it was the I was very close to it. And I was literally like, I literally at some point became like team, like literally part of the team practically, mm-hmm. right? So I'm a little biased in that way of like, my perspective was like, oh, you were dope and everyone knew it. Mm-hmm. If we were to go back in time and I were to look at it, my guess is the reception once the album came out was much more critical than that.
Yeah, I mean, again, like even, you know, the idea of making a record, like you're not even really thinking about it until later. And there's just so much that we could unpack. I mean, we could literally, this could be an 8-hour conversation if we go through the timeline. You know, even putting Asher Roth on the CD cover of Asleep in the Bread, I didn't want to do that. I was like, no, let's not do that. And that was a concession I had to make.
You mean your name or the picture?
My name.
You're right.
So the picture and the art direction and everything was fine. But, you know, this whole kind of branding of, and just the idea of like what you're putting out is essentially going to be representation of you forever. And I in a lot of ways, am happy that I wasn't thinking about it like that. Because I think you could just paralyze yourself and not put anything out. Like, oh, don't put that out, man. People, that lives forever.
I mean, Cardi's the best example. Cardi cannot drop her sophomore album because her first one. I mean, listen, I'm not going to go as far as calling it a masterpiece, but as far as like a debut, it's a really authentic piece of work. Yeah. Stumbled into like 4 hits off of it, like, and it seems like she spent now 6 years, 7 years, stopping and starting. Because of that, like, oh my God, how this thing lives forever. I only have one and it was really good. It is paralyzing.
Yeah. I think that's really tough. And also when you become kind of like bigger than the music as well. I mean, you know.
How do you live up to.
Where do you go? Where do you go from there? And I think that for me was really important as well because, you know, I'm really close friends with Chuck English of the Cool Kids. Mm-hmm. That's somebody who else from the very beginning maintained a genuine friendship.
And he's on your project.
Yeah, he is actually. Yeah, he's on Temporary Heaven, and we'll get into that. And Chuck, you know, we were laughing about the end of the year. We were just talking about some things and having a good chat about it. But he was like, "Yeah, and you were the first white rapper after Eminem," and it's just like, it's like always interesting to hear how people see you, you know what I mean? Or like how they're perceiving your, you know, your presence or act within the timeline of, you know, rap music. And I don't know how true that is in your world or whatever, but I was like, was I the next kind of rapper after Eminem, the first white rapper to come after Eminem that was kind of like a presence? And he was just talking about how much of a tough position that is to be in. And so, like, you know, the toughest thing about my debut album being my most prominent work with the resources behind it and the people who were behind it and all this stuff is that I was such an unfinished product. I was still kind of like finding out who I was and finding out my voice. And so that's what's kind of like, that's what keeps me going is like, you know, talking with like Tunji, who's at Def Jam and stuff, and just being like, I'm excited for the lot of people who, when you talk about like Hot 97 audience and just a general audience, casual fans who might be the people that throw me into a one-hit wonder playlist or whatever, I'm excited to connect that dot from I Love College to more recently what I'm doing. It might not be a rap song. I have no idea what that moment will be. I have places where I want to kind of like finagle and move through, but that keeps me going, to be honest with you. So a long-winded answer about being comfortable and all that stuff is, and are you bothered by the one-hit wonder stuff, is just like, it's motivation in a lot of ways to just say, hey man, like I will connect that dot, you know what I mean? And I could stay on that one-hit wonder playlist, but I do want to. I want to connect that dot for a lot of people and just say, oh, that's really cool. Even if it is like, oh, dude, he cooks food in the ground out in Patagonia. Like, that's really cool. You know, that I Love College guy now lives off the land, whatever it may be, you know. I just want to connect that dot.
So you were just saying, someone said, Chuck said, you were the first white rapper after Eminem, and it got me thinking. Were you the first notable white rapper after Eminem? So we're talking about like 2008 that you came along in a real way?
Yeah. That was Greenhouse Effect Volume.
Oh, so there's Bubba Sparks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unique category,
for sure.
Sort of. Mm-hmm. There's Paul Wall,
mm-hmm.
but neither of them are in the same category as you. Now, I'm not saying that's fair, but I don't think that people would have thrown them in the like trying to be lyricist category.
Sure.
Even though both of them can rhyme and both of them are great artists.
And still making music.
And still make music and still do great. See Paul Wall all the time. Haven't seen Bubba Sparks, but shouts to Bubba Sparks. But in terms of like, yeah, like the lane that you were attempting to occupy, you were still novel. And like, I think about that now too, with my career. I'm like, yo, it was actually novel. Like it was, who's like that white boy was like a thing. And I'm not saying it's not still a thing to some extent, but like, we can't pretend that it's the same thing. Obviously, cultures evolve and they reach more people, and more people show up to the party, and it's easier for those people to be accepted, certainly. But that's a really interesting thing to think about, that you could have been like, because then Mac came after you.
Yeah.
A few years later.
You're just dealing in perspective at that point, right? Like things are so compartmentalized. And that's what's big for me. And maybe I think about it too much. I remember James Cruz getting on a flight and him being on the same flight as me, and James Cruz being like, dude,
James Cruz is a bad boy executive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was like, dude, like you kind of know too much. You're thinking about it too much, you know? And that feedback, I've gotten that a few times, that I'm like, you have like kind of like a managerial head about what you're doing. And, you know, even if we wanted to jump right into it, that was kind of the friction between Scooter and I a lot of the time, you know, was just being like, well, no, I think we should do it like this, you know? And, you know, his feedback to even my family was like, well, you know, this other artist does whatever I tell them to do. And so that's why.
But isn't the proof all in the pudding of what happened with you and Scooter? Like, well, Scooter went on to be literally the most famous music executive in the world.
Yeah.
right? There's not, at this moment, there's not another music executive, particularly that you're allowed to talk about, that exists, that is like in Scooter's realm.
Yeah.
And you are, a one-woman man raising your daughter. You teach people about making music and make music with students. You tour and do small events. Like, you guys literally, your paths couldn't be more divergent.
Yeah. I always said we kind of played the game differently, for sure.
Well, and wasn't Justin, he was looking for Justin Bieber.
Absolutely. I didn't know this, actually. One of the most amazing, again, communication, right? That is why I continue to do what I do. I love to be able to communicate with people. And I think hip hop culturally and as a communication device is ultra powerful. I think it's Seared Foie Gras, or it was Greenhouse Effect Volume 2. Never underestimate the power of a rap song. And little things like that. I mean, even just recently, I got to go to the Buffalo Bills 49ers game because Christian McCaffrey shouting out Ed McCaffrey on Seared Foie Gras. He hears that and is like, when he's young, and he's like, yo, this dude's shouting out my dad. Goes on to be, one of the best football players of our era.
And he's on your team.
And he's on my team.
Right.
And so,
oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
We stayed in touch, and he was like, yo, come to the Buffalo Bills game. And I have get to meet him and everything like that. But again, an example of, never underestimate the power of a rap song. I kind of diverged there just to flex that, Christian McCaffrey's a friend.
But you were saying, we were talking about you and Scooter's Pats being the proof being in the pudding of how different your approaches were to getting this thing, to getting to whatever it was going to be.
Yeah, I think what I was kind of getting at was just playing the game differently. I think I'm going to have to come back to that, just because the most important thing is that rap song can have you be friends with athletes and entertainers.
And when it turns out to be someone on your team,
sorry.
You found it?
Communication.
Okay.
Communication is just extremely important to what I was doing, and still is why I continued to make music. So, for instance, you're talking about Temporary Heaven and some of the most recent stuff, and downplaying or giving a shout to, hey dude, you're a one-woman man, you're working with students and all these things. It's that stuff was always important to me. And so as far as the proof being in the pudding with Scoot, it's I don't really know where to take it. I really don't.
But think about it. Was there ever a world in which you would have been able to fill the role of the artist that he was looking to have?
Oh,
I think the answer is.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to get back to. So I found this out was when Scooter sat and did a interview for the Blueprint of there's a blueprint with I forget what
with Noah.
And he's telling you exactly what the artist that he was looking to find. He's I was looking to find a pop artist and a very agreeable white rapper type. I was holy shit. I was all part of a plan, and that makes a lot of sense in retrospect. But at the same time, it's when you're in it and you're just going through it, you think it's just a genuine, oh, this person just believes in me as.
But do you think is that true, or is he now saying it to shape the story the way it went?
I don't know. I don't. I do think it's true. I do think that people like Scooter and Scooter specifically have artists that you seen on Atlanta with Donald Glover being you need a avatar or whatever it's called, a white avatar,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And you basically run your campaigns through these people. Mm-hmm. And we see it a lot with artists, to be honest with you. It's specifically when it starts to come politically. I remember LeBron and China, you know what I mean? It's you can only say so much. And so it's I do think that there's some truth to finding, let's call it easy to work with artists, younger artists, you know what I mean, that you can kind of quote unquote develop. And so when I heard that though, I was oh shit, I didn't know how to feel about it, because I felt initially with Scooter and I, when we were kind of coming up together, I felt there was a genuine understanding of you do this and I do this, you know what I mean? But I didn't know that I was filling a role for him that was necessarily just to be on to the next thing. And so that was, I think when I reflect on that time period, there is like some there's just some disappointment because we never got to like paint with all the colors. You know what I mean? Like I basically got in trouble for doing a really good job. Like to even get into it, like I've never seen an artist royalty from the SRC, Asleep in the Bread Owl stuff. Like all that stuff is like such a mess, you know?
You never got paid from the
I've never
first
seen
album?
an artist royalty from that. So like I got an advance and then I got
Spent, which I'm sure you spent a lot
well, it
of.
wasn't much money, you know what I mean? Like I think,
What was your advance?
I think the budget for Asleep in the Bread Owl was like $300,000.
Yeah.
Which is like nothing, you know what I mean? And when you're dealing with a debut album on a major label.
Well, and you guys got pretty big producers and features on that album.
Sure, but like at the same time, it's like
You had to pay for those. I mean, those came out of the budget, right?
I would probably say the largest part of the budget because you know you have Orrin Yoel sit on this couch and he'll kind of tell you the same thing. And so it's like for me, that experience also colors my experience into why I go independent. You know what I mean? Like why I made some of the decisions that I made is because the Asleep in the Bread Owl experience to me was so unfair. You know what I mean? But then like there's the other voice in you and the same thing that you're saying to me is like, Asher, you're lucky. You're just lucky to be here. And it's like it's true. I'm lucky to have a place that like, you know, people will listen to. I got a chance to speak to so many people. I got to go perform Madison Square Garden, opening up for Blink-182. I had these experiences that a lot of the time as you get older and maybe you think about like death, I'm like, I could go, dude. I'm cool. I did a lot, and I feel really grateful for that. And that's because saying yes to Asleep in the Bread Owl. But like all of this stuff that I dealt with like the kind of like the assistance, the insistence on firing lawyers to get deals done and all of this stuff, it left me in such a vulnerable place. And I mean, you know, like Allison Kay and all that stuff, like she was, you know, initially kind of a buffer for me to help me, and as a lawyer through my buddy Tal, and like that got.
Wait,
really,
I forgot. Allison was originally your lawyer.
Yeah, dude.
Totally forgot about that.
It's just so.
For people who don't know, Allison has worked with Scooter now ever since, and has been like Justin's kind of everything person for a long time. I assume she still is. As of most recent check, I think she still was like kind of all things Justin. And but what Asher's pointing out is that's a conflict. Because originally she was your person.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to have someone between you. For any artist listening to this, your lawyer and your management should not be the same. And they often are. This is very common.
They shouldn't be in cahoots.
They should not be in cahoots. The person who's your lawyer who looks over your contract, like right now, my brother is my lawyer, and he will look over things that my agents do, and he will then look at it.
Right.
And his responsibility is only to me. Right. He doesn't make money with my agents. If the people make money together, that's a conflict, and that's a problem.
Right. And so I don't harbor any ill will because when I reflect on it, we were pretty much just kids, and I know.
Yeah, them too. Your management team
exactly.
as well. Yes.
And they were as ambitious as I was. And so when you ask me from initially this conversation is like, do you think he means it? You know, when he says all that stuff, is like, yeah, looking back on it, I think that there was like, you know, this is what I'm going to do. And I think along the lines, specifically when we start talking about like building your team and music and lawyers and management and stuff like that, you know, I felt like the people that I was working with at the time they knew what they wanted to do. And it didn't necessarily mean what was best for their artist at the time. And so that colors my experience moving forward. So, you know, the next thing, and when we start talking about the chapters in this is, you know, that place down in Lower East Side, and I make seared foie gras with quince and cranberry. And I remember you, again, and you have these quotables that actually, it's funny that they come up. It's like, dude, you might have dropped the hottest tape of the year. Too bad nobody can pronounce it. Peter Rosenberg quote. And so it's funny because like
I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
I wish I could be smart with myself.
No.
That was sage thoughts.
No, it absolutely was. And so like there's little things I could point out in every single project, little things or songs or parts of recordings or album artwork that I didn't like, that you still kind of push it out again. So from a Cardi standpoint, it's just like you still gotta just let it go. Don't lose, you know, the magic of the moment by overthinking it. But even up to this point in my career, it's still to this day, every single project has a little blemish that I don't love. And so therefore, in a lot of ways, I don't feel like I've made a perfect project. I don't feel like I have like a masterpiece or anything like that. And so that's another thing that keeps me going, you know?
That's funny. I saw Jack Harlow dropped a freestyle recently, and he said that in his freestyle, I was impressed by that line that he was like, I still don't think I've dropped a great body of work. I've had hot verses here and there, but I really haven't done what I think I should do, which I was like, oh, that's really cool to hear from someone who's really, you know, doing well in this moment. So we talked about like your ego or lack thereof, at least how I perceive it. And if you listen to your recent music, I mean, you talk a lot about the way you view the world. You even have a little bar about Scooter and like your freedom, finding your freedom after that. All that being said, when I asked you earlier about like, do you have friends and family who are maybe not on the same page as you because they're like, nah, but you got to show people what time it is. I'm really talking about myself. Because I definitely I remember early on, I was telling people who liked good rap, I'll be like, no, listen, I'm telling you, he's not just my friend. Like, Asher's one of the illest rappers. Like, he really, really, really can rap. Like, does it frustrate you that at this moment in time, there are people who really don't know that, like, you are, like, a devastatingly good rapper? Like, you can I imagine there aren't a lot of people out there. I'm just being real. Like, yes, you look like you could step in and be like a high school teacher.
AP Bio.
AP Bio right now. Very lovable teacher. Everyone likes them, like, you know. But, like, my guess is there aren't a lot of people in the world who you think, push come to shove, can rap better than you.
I think what's the frustrating part is like going out and doing a name thing and having it be my birth name is like, I can't really go get a regular job, you know? I can't go wait tables if I wanted to and be like,
it's kind of trash.
You know what I mean? But no, it's not frustrating at all. I think that, like, you know, there's something all of us are always trying to, like, you know, really for the most part probably prove to ourselves, you know, that we are a devastatingly good rapper. And I would probably count 5 times maybe that I'm just like, damn, I'm pretty good. But there's other times where I'm just like, you know, it's a little sloppy. So no, I don't find it frustrating. But again, dude, it's such a gift. It's just a wonderful gift to have people like yourself and fans that write really sweet things. Especially because there's a human element to all of this entertainment, you know? There's a human element to all of this sharing of these raps that hopefully they mean something to you, and then when you're sharing them, people are listening to them, and people are writing you and saying, like, dude, I've been with you since '09, like, I'm such a supporter of you, like again, like the praise in a lot of ways just goes, but when you really sit with it, it just means the world to have people supporting and encouraging you, because that's like the only reason why I'm here in the first place is like because of some of that encouragement that I got in high school and in the early parts of college.
But how do you sit with the gratitude more than the frustration? Like, again, I'm talking to myself here. So like, you're not big on social media. You know, you're a niche artist at this point. You know, you don't look around at other people, again, because this is what I do. When you drop, you don't look around at like other more financially successful peers of your era, maybe from your XXL cover, whatever it was, and go, yeah, but my shit's more John Blaze than that.
Right. I mean, there's a part of you that does that for sure.
But where did you find sort of the attitude of gratitude? Because you really did seem to find it. And like, you're not in recovery. You know, you're not uber religious. You know, where do you
don't know that?
No, I don't. But I do know that you're spiritual. You've always been a spiritual person, but you're not like, you know, an in church every day kind of guy.
That's right. No super churches.
So no super churches. Where did you find gratitude?
That's a interesting question, Peter. Where do you find gratitude?
Because you had this before you had your daughter. You can't even tell me that it comes from your daughter because it predates that.
Yeah. I think being a dad is definitely awesome. It changes your priorities. We can get there, but you know, I think it comes from kind of whether it be missing the opportunity or losing the opportunity, and when you've had the opportunity.
So you're saying getting cold after being hot is what made you feel grateful for the fact that, you may not have the initial taste of hotness that you had, but you do have people who love your music and want to hear it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you try to say this to somebody who hasn't been hot. And you're like, dude, just be grateful for your 10 fans. And they're like, fuck you, dude. I'm trying to blow up here, And so I am coming from a place of privilege when I say, I'm grateful for the 150 people or whoever, But yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that, like, if I was having an honest reflection on everything, I really got to a place, it was probably right around the Paps and Jazz retro hash stuff, when things were like very reflective and somber. Coming out of that, doing a show for I remember after Paps and Jazz, doing a show in Nashville, Tennessee for 16 people. And just being...
Woo! Well, so you may have answered the question before I asked it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, when was that moment when you were like, oh, I'm not hot anymore?
Well, it's so crazy to me. This is the calculus that's crazy to me, is my music and what I offer right now is 1 billion times more valuable than what I was offering when things were hot.
Yeah.
And so that is what the frustrating part for me.
Right.
It's not whether people know I'm good or not. I don't really care about that. It's just that I feel like I have a lot to give. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to and continue to operate from a place where I can continue to give, just energetically. You know what I mean? Be a force that when someone leaves, when they're with you, they go, I feel better. I want to be somebody like that, You feel me?
Rocky just hit with a nice cough. I think you rock.
Exactly.
No, okay. And I think you would do that, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's a conscious thing. 49er fan, George Kittle. You know what I mean? From delve into sports for a little bit, for 2 seconds. Jake Moody is the kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, and he is having a tough time right now.
Yeah, I've seen some.
He's melting down. He's missing some big kicks.
I've seen a lot of kickers this year have melted down.
And just kickers in general. The best thing that Jake Moody has going on in his life is George Kittle is on his team. And George will be like, dude, we're going to get through this. You're either going to let this moment define you and all this stuff. And now don't get me wrong. There is a whole world on the internet and subcultures and stuff, that self-help, that people are trying to prey on your, I don't feel that great about myself. Tell me everything's all right, But there is genuinely something that I believe that when you start talking about purpose, when you start talking about why are we here, the meaning and all this stuff, and it's when we start talking about stuff way more important than rap, way bigger than rap, to me, it's this understanding that the way I approach the world and the way that I interact with the world is important. It reverberates out. And so I choose to be kind of on the positive side of things. That doesn't mean I'm always going to be in the best of moods. And for the most part, if I'm not feeling that good, I probably am not going to leave the house. You know what I mean? But when I do go to greet the world, you want it to be in a positive space. And so and I use positive as just because we're dealing in language here, that's one of the only few words. But I think the fact that I work on that, and the fact that I'm in becoming a father and becoming cold and having all of these experiences, which I use on Discord for really just a classroom of about 25 to 35 kids. Again, to your point, not that many people, but I feel like I have so much that I want to share. And here I am in the smallest audience that I've really ever had. And so that to me is the interesting part of it. Because it's damn, dude, when I was just screaming, titties and beer, you had a huge audience, which I get. Titties and beer is still tight.
By the way, we love titties and beer.
You know what I mean, dude? All day. And so it's for me, though, when you start talking about, you enter into rap music and hip hop, and you're a white kid, and your position in it, and just art in general, and entertainment, and all of these things. Sustainability was a really big thing to me. I want to be creating some of the coolest shit at 60, but it's how do you do that? And how do you do it now, even more so? Everything has changed a bunch since 2009. So now it's much faster, you know what I mean? And so it's like that consistency has to be there and stuff. And I personally just don't work like that. I wouldn't consider myself to be prolific. I'm not pumping out 2 or 3 projects a year. You know, I'm kind of sitting with how I'm feeling and trying my best to like.
That's probably where, again, you're not a guy who's motivated by money. That's probably where the money would be for the most money would be for an artist in your lane, right? Pumping out a lot of material.
But again, it's like there's so many ways to look at it, right? So it's like, does kind of not maybe oversaturating, but like let's just say 3 projects a year, does that make those projects a little less valuable if you're doing it for kind of like just filler stuff, you know? I think that like we're getting to a point also where it's now you don't want to wait 6 years, but like didn't Hov say something about like dropping an album a year or something like that every summer or something like that? Like to me, that's pretty good because you're also having so much, everyone's vying for so much attention. You want people to kind of miss you. But to your point, financially, when you're dealing with algorithms and just kind of the if-then of all of this stuff, you pretty much want to be participating in that pretty consistently. It's just really hard when you want your words to have value, you know? And that's what's always been important to me. So it's like, that's the conversation here. After Titties and Beer is just like, what do you value? What's valuable to you? What are your values? What are some of your non-negotiables? And I think in entertainment, I was unwilling. I took it all so personally. I was unwilling to sacrifice too much of my character in order to stabilize myself financially. It just didn't feel like the right thing to do. I think that there's probably a couple $15,000, $25,000 shows I should have said yes to, you know what I mean, down the road. But like at the same time, no. And I probably said no to that in good reason. I would like to think. I never have felt myself to be an irrational person or hard to work with. I just felt like it was never like, I don't feel like it. It was like, I just think that's a bad look. Maybe I was wrong.
Right.
Because people don't care as much as
as much as you think at the time.
Right.
Speaking of Titties and Beer and compromising yourself, it is crazy, and we've brought this up before, but it's worth bringing up again. It is crazy that you did not have, in a time in which you were absolutely on fire, and your thing was he's the partying, drinking college kid, and you went on tour and did not have one-night stands. You literally did not have a one-night stand during that run. That is... To me, that's a mind-blowing piece of information, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know, just to be clear, not because you were some hermit who didn't go out and party and have, I'm sure, really great opportunity, but like, why did that not interest you?
Well, first of all, I'm a genius, you know what I mean, for not doing that. But
you knew how things would look later in time.
I remember it was Ole Miss, I think. It was at Ole Miss, and like, This is actually a little bit later. This is, I think, like Snapchat, Instagram stories was kind of a thing. And this girl, Spencer, shout out to Spencer, super cool. She just screams in the background, 6 seconds of fun will ruin your life. And I just like, that resonated. I was like, that's so fucking true. You know what I mean? Because you can do some stupid shit, you can say some stupid shit, and it can change everything, you know what I mean? And you see it. We're seeing accountability kind of right now.
So that was part of it. Was just like you worried about reputationally.
I think so. Like subconsciously and consciously. I was like, you know, this is all connected. You know, you have to take care of yourself. So it's like it's not like I wasn't like not making out, you know what I mean, and having fun, you know what I mean. But it was just like, in that same world, it's just like you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta protect yourself, and I think that's what I was, you know, conscious of doing, and also like really scared to fuck it up. I really was, and like that's what's funny about like the conversation as a whole, specifically early on, is like I didn't want to fuck it up and like misuse my power that would be perceived at the time. And so, yeah, man, when I reflect, though, sometimes I'm like, I should have done more drugs, you know? I should have done more drugs. But at the same time, I'm happy I'm not, because like you said, I'm not in recovery. You know, I feel like I have a really nice understanding with
You're
myself.
Not scared that some terrible story is going to come out about you?
For sure. I sleep, you know
like you can, like, you get to go to sleep and
Absolutely.
be like, I'm all good with
Absolutely.
the life that I live. That's That's pretty cool.
It's really good. It's a really cool.
But you did probably pass up a couple of good times, if I were guessing.
I mean, I remember Florida. And this is like how freaking dorky I am. Is like this is how AP bio I am. I remember Florida University burning couches. Like we're having a blast. We go upstairs, and it's like this dude and these two hot girls, University of Florida, and they're like, yeah, come on in. When they come on in, they're just like, yeah, and then they like bust out the cocaine. I'm like, I don't do that, and I left. You know what I mean?
Just one example of...
That's just a small example, but to be also true, cocaine's not my drug, you know?
Right,
So,
that's not your bag.
Yeah, but I've had my fun. I honestly, like, do not get it twisted. I've had a blast, and I've also got out of there. I'm at a good time. I remember, I think it was probably around, like, 32. I think when I was just, like, you know, still people were like, yo, you should come do these frat parties and stuff like that. And I'm just like...
Feels like it's run its course.
It's run its course, you know, and I think that there's some novelty in it as we go, you know, whether it be college game day or some of these places that you can still make an appearance and like.
Did you do college game day before?
No. I mean, that's turned into something.
Exactly.
That's become, you know.
Man, if I Love College was out during this version of college game day.
If I Love College was out during this capture everything, you know, I mean, that happened, like just the timing of it. I think I'm actually really fortunate. Because I think it would have just became something. I mean, Barstool was created at the same time I Love College.
That's interesting.
Was coming out.
That's interesting.
So Barstool is aggregating all of that college debauchery and creating a brand on it at the same time. So it's just starting. And so like all of this, like capture it here right now was not happening. I mean, you could probably just do do the check of when Instagram came out. Specifically, I would say that, and because you're not really doing like live this instant on Facebook, right?
No,
so
not
like,
in the same way.
Yeah, and MySpace wasn't live this instant right now either. So it's like all of this like instantaneous. I'm living my life online. I don't know, man. I think I'm actually really fortunate.
Have you ever been like post early days Twitter? Mm-hmm. Have you ever been like hyperactive on social?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Twitter. I like kind of like this like word-based stuff. Are you on like what, on Threads or? I'm
all of them. X or whatever? I do use all of them a little these days.
I like to think my IG stories are kind of popping, but again, it's like.
Why don't your IG stories come up for me?
That's exactly it. Exactly.
Isn't that messed up?
That's the problem, right? So I think I focused just a little bit more on like building a newsletter and all this stuff and like kind of talking to people who really genuinely were into what I was doing. But yeah, I mean, dude, social media is just...
Here's Asher holding a peanut. Wait, is that a white squirrel?
It's an albino squirrel, dude.
Yo, you're talking about good content. First thing I see is an albino squirrel.
Come on, you know.
Come on, bruh.
Yeah, dude. So I like to participate in the digital world, but I also understand that like it can be consuming, right? I think there's been moments in my life where I'll say something and be like, I should tweet that. Like, isn't that weird? Isn't that a strange impulse to have in your
bizarre
conscious life?
And I do it all. I do it a lot.
Or even like,
with IG, I'll do it. I'll be like, I should say this.
Yeah, I should.
I can't. It might. By the way, I don't have enough radio platforms to say it on. I need to say it now.
Isn't it strange, bro? And so like, I just try to keep that in check. I've been in places where because of the idea of capturing it digitally and like thinking about how I was going to take the pictures or take the video, that I ended up not even being there.
I know. I
come home and I'm just like, I have the videos and I have the pictures, but I'm like, I wasn't even there. And so it's just a balance.
So how have you managed to avoid doing that with your daughter? Because that's what I'm thinking about in the future. Like I've been telling Natalie, I've been really like the last week since I've been on this vacation, the last week or two, man, I am checking my phone so much. And it's like the more I check it, the more I'm scrolling. There's nothing for me here. I'm not even getting the high I used to get.
Well, that's a huge thing too. It's
I'm
just
like, where is the high?
There's nothing here for me, right? Do you mean like my daughter being a father and my daughter using social media, or her participating in my digital life?
No, I mean, how did you sort of make sure that you're not just like, I have picture and video of X moment with my daughter, but you're like, no, I lived that moment. Like,
do you mean sharing that online?
no.
Oh, just in general.
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Like-
I mean, like these. You get pretty good at just like, and you'll capture it, and you get a nice understanding. Like,
because you said to me earlier something interesting. You were like, little kids do things and then literally look up to see if you saw them.
Yeah, and I think that that's something I would probably bring back to just for the conversation is that, like, as a father, and this pertains to art as well, but specifically as a father, my thesis in it all would be that love is attention and attention is love specifically. And so that lends itself to the digital media and social media conversation, because guess what's getting all of our attention right now? And in a lot of ways, getting our love. And so with my daughter specifically, being very intentional that when she's around, I don't have my phone. And she'll come running in like, Dad, and it's just like, phone time's over, And there's really kind of, people who are parents, they understand that the priorities start to shift. Like, you'll see, it's really not a big deal.
By the way, I wouldn't be I think a lot of people don't.
You're right. Absolutely.
You'd like to think.
You're right. That's actually true. That's totally true. But it's really not that hard for me to stop what I'm doing to hang out with my kid. You know what I mean? It's really not that hard because of these small experiences that I've had, these short experiences of her climbing a step stool, getting to the top of it unassisted and looking at me and go, did you see that? And the joy that I have being like, yeah, I saw that. Like, that was awesome. Like, it's also crazy that through everything that I've been through from an entertainment standpoint, that maybe it's recency bias, but I can say that's one of my favorite memories, is watching my daughter unassisted climb a 2-step step stool by herself, stand up, be super proud of herself, turn to me and go, did you see that? In her eyes. And I go, yeah, I saw that. And I was there. It's like, I can't imagine the inverse of that situation and have me been like,
what was that? What's
tweeting
that?
Something. Yeah, I missed that. Sorry.
Sorry, honey. What was that?
I
was doing something completely worthless.
And so that's really it, man. It's just like this, I hope everybody's getting to this point because it's been an X amount of years, right? If we're talking, let's say Asher Roth's Isle of College is the start of, the Big Bang Theory of digital media and entertainment and all this stuff. We've done it for 15, 16, 17, 18 years now. We uploaded our consciousness. We are the beta for all of the learned language models and all this stuff. So it's like,
facts.
We know what it's doing to our brain. There's documentary after documentary coming out right now. There's articles after articles written about here's what it's doing to you. And so like, it's not that hard for me to have that conversation with myself and say, what are you doing? What are you doing on your phone right now? And say, not much. And you're like, all right, go. Just yesterday, I was downstairs. We had just finished dinner. Megan was upstairs with Edie playing. And I was downstairs reading an article on my phone. And they're like laughing. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I put my phone down and I went upstairs and I just hung out. I wasn't like, oh, Dad's here, let's play, and like try to overcompensate. I'm just laying on the couch and being there for that. And like, you'll see, this isn't like.
And by the way, you were reading an article's not the worst it could be.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like you were still actively doing something at least. You weren't scrolling.
Yeah, I try to consume good stuff. It's like, you be careful of what you're putting in your body and your brain. And like, I really, honestly, I don't want this to come off as like virtue signaling or like grandstanding. I'm like, this is like, but like, this is things that as I've gone through my life and had the experiences that I've had and like with different people in different circumstances and stuff, like I have taken the time to say like, what is valuable to you? And so when you become a parent and your priorities start to shift, like that discipline, because those moments are so fast, like that, her getting up on the stand and looking at me, that's you know what I mean? And if you're not there for it, you missed it. It's gone. And I think that is a microcosm for so much and what the phone and all of these and digital media is kind of taking away from the fact, I swear to you, people will probably have documented their entire lives. They will. And by the time they're my age or by the time they're 50, I promise you the sensation in their body will be that they weren't even there. Like, I wasn't even there, but I have the video, and this is awesome. This video is tight. And we have so many cool pictures. And so, like, when I go to get baby pictures of me, there's none. My mom's like, oh yeah, like, you're the last, I'm the third of 2 older sisters. Ashka says hi, by the way.
Hi. Love Ashka.
She's doing really well. But, by the time it got to me, I was like, yeah, whatever. But so it's such a gift that Edie's going to be able to look back at her life and be like, oh, this is dope. Look at this, look at this, look at this. So, we're still documenting. We're still taking pictures and we're still taking videos and stuff like that. But you just got to live with it, and not necessarily say, this is how I'm going to live through this device.
That's such a crazy thought, too, that you're right. We are the first, and people will spend their whole lives doing it.
Edith's entire life is going to be documented. It's crazy because my childhood, and again, all the studies about brain and stuff like that, it's essential. I can make up whatever I want at the end of the day. Like, just from a memory standpoint, my parents do it all the time. My mom will be like, oh yeah, remember in whatever that date that we went on and so was there? And my dad was like, he wasn't there. What are you talking about? And they just like argue about the same exact moment in time, but how they remember it. And that's like, we have that too. When we reflect on our lives and we're dealing with memory, it's probably not exact.
Right, but it is an actual memory.
Which is cool. But I'm saying, like, now, Edie will be like, oh, remember, I'm like, well, let's check the film. Let's check the replay and see if that's what actually happened, which I think is like kind of a drag, because you want it to be whatever you want it to be. You can rewrite these memories in your brain and say, this was a good one. I'm taking the good from this.
Do you have your phone on you?
Yeah, I can get it.
I'm curious. I've never done this before. Do you want to play a game that I've been thinking about doing that I've never done? What? Don't look at me, Natalie. This is a good idea, I think. Why are you making a face?
Well, it's not live, right? You can just say that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
I got it. Yeah, here you go.
This is not great for me. All right. Open your Instagram.
Okay.
Go to your explore page.
Okay. It's gonna be all titties and like.
So let's go line for line.
And sports. Okay.
I'm gonna screen cap it so we could potentially put it in here. I'm screen grabbing mine, which is really embarrassing.
Oh God, dude.
All right. What is your going from order?
Top left.
Top left across. What's your first one?
Do I click on it?
No, you don't have to click on it. Just describe it like generally.
It's like a artist. And it says, quote unquote, I did a humiliation ritual and I passed.
So it's like some weird avant-garde art
I'm gonna hit this and see what this. It's NLE Choppa.
Oh, it's an NLE Choppa thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go back. Mine is tits. Mine is
two. Damn,
mine
you
is
win. All right.
Mine is 2 chicks sitting together in bikinis.
Nice.
Maybe they're celebrities.
1-0. 1-0 Peter.
Or 1-0 me. All right. What is your next one?
Some guy saying the only Airbnbs that will survive in 2025. So some predictive.
Okay. Mine is a former Chiefs player who passed away. Jimmy Wilkerson.
Okay.
He passed away, unfortunately.
All right.
What is your next one?
And then I have, it's time to give Zach Wilson his chance. Denver Broncos. All right, so tie.
All right, we're getting football.
Yeah.
Now, how about this, though? So my third across, I don't even know how this works, is actually 2 things.
Yep.
Is yours 2?
Yep.
So mine is 2 tits. Just, I
you're
mean,
killing it.
Yeah,
bro.
no, it's just a random dark-haired woman with a very fake-looking face.
I would have to. So mine's a black box. So I have.
What is that?
I don't know. Let's click on it.
Sounds like a bad idea.
It's sports, dude.
Okay.
Top 5 how didn't he score moments. But this is a perfect example of just like you do this for 2 minutes and you go, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
It takes the time.
Then of what's remaining, the next one I have is some celebrity couple. I'm unaware of who it is.
Yeah, I got Drake.
I then have The Rock.
Yeah.
I then have the bottom half of the original tits post. Then there's there's another tits post.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, this has gotten bad recently.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing about these algorithms, right? Is like you click on tits once and then it's just all tits, which is like, that goes to show like these algorithms really aren't that smart. It's like, oh, if you like tits, you're going to like more tits.
It's like, but I do like other things. But then it's like, then
Right.
there's Kai Cenat.
Yeah.
Coy Leray says Trippie Redd got her pregnant.
But my albino squirrel, not on there.
But that's the thing I don't like. That's what's fucked up.
You
Then there's
need
some
the
wrestling.
albino squirrel.
It's so sad,
You're
man.
doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You have to post it as a reel, not as a story.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
true.
yeah, I can't get it unless you.
Yeah, that's right. See, you know what's so funny too about like when you ask about like the frustration and stuff, and I know my parents have mentioned this too on their just like 70-year-old Facebook stuff, is that like when I post anything about my music, it's like, yeah, cool, you know. But if I post like some, you know, an albino squirrel, it like blows up, you know.
Right.
And so that's another thing is like that, like you have to try to find the balance in this new world that the kind of the least important thing about what you're doing is like your talent, you know.
It's the whole thing is friggin'.
If it's not about me, like, and I mean the viewer, if I can't use this information, if this isn't about me and my joy, then I don't want it. And so I'm sure you're seeing it with some of the radio station stuff is like, you know, people doing interviews and talking about themselves. People don't really care unless they can use that information. And like, that's
Did
why
you just put out a 7-inch?
Yeah, I actually brought you one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was about to say you just posted that
I
you.
just saw it.
Oh, you did.
Can you put your phone away?
Sorry.
Yo, my friend, a 7-inch, you know.
Hey, yo.
I signed it for you and everything.
I love it. All right, what is this record you just gave me?
So,
Ooh, I like the open up jacket.
it's super cool, man. There's we just did actually a bake off for that. So the only people that actually have that vinyl are the ones who baked a specific recipe. And it's called New Dessert. Yeah.
You're a wild boy, by the way.
I know, man. I'm having so much fun. I would actually go and say that this is the best time to be creating. And so the reason why I do like being independent, and why I actually am still really intrigued in like, you know, partnering and being with people who can get you to a larger audience. I'm all for it. You know what I mean? But the nice thing about being independent is that you can be pretty nimble. And so most recently, Logic had kind of fulfilled his obligations, and he and I linked up just off of just like human shit. He was just like, dude, you seem like at peace, you know, helping and working in the Discord and all this stuff. Like, I just want to, you know, give you a nod and love for that. And that was so...
And you guys didn't know each other?
Dude, so dope. Like, I gotta give Logic so much love for being somebody like that. Artists do not do that, dude. They do not reach out to other people that really can't do anything for them. You know what I mean? It's usually typically transactional, and he was reaching out to someone just like, yo, you're cool, man. Like, you're an awesome person. Like, shout out. And that was so amazing. And so we stayed in touch and just have kind of similar interests. He's a father as well.
Yep.
And he popped into the Discord, and all the kids were really excited about that. And then he invited me out to a show when he was in Philadelphia at the Met. And so I popped in on him, and we were kind of...
How big is the Met?
Met's probably like 1,500 people.
Got it.
Perfect. I mean, like for me, my goal in life is to do these kind of older theaters. The Met is obviously renovated and everything. But if you're doing like 1,000, 1,250 in theaters...
No, you're Gucci.
You're good.
You're really Gucci.
You're doing really well. And so I'm intrigued in kind of building touring, and I really love to perform. But seeing that was really nice for me because I can't, like, I think the last time I did that and felt that was actually the first show in Boston that I think was at the House of Blues. And again, like, I had no idea what to expect, but not to get off. So like that 7-inch, you know, we were chilling backstage, and Logic was like, dude, I make fire beats. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, cool. Let's
Logic does make great beats.
Dude, he makes amazing beats. So he was playing me all these joints, and like I was just like, that one. And so I picked these 5 beats, and so he sent them to me. And now this is where Logic is amazing, and just in general. This is happening right now. Artists and producers are sharing records, they're sharing beats and all these things. Rappers are saying, yo, we should work, all of that stuff. And nothing ever happens. It always just goes, yeah, we totally should. Or I'll send you all these beats, and they never get rapped on, anything like that. And so the coolest thing, one, about being independent is you can be nimble, you can move, you can do things like the 7-inch and a baking experience, and no one, you know, has to approve of that. But also, you know, someone like Logic can say yes and say, yo, these beats are really like these raps over these beats are super dope. We should put them out. And so like I have to give like one just a love for, you know, I'm not encouraging and gonna sell this like independent dream because it's a tremendous amount of work. It's very you know, it's just hard. It's just hard. It's kind of like something that like really helps the self-doubt creep in because you're competing against algorithms that are just really, is it tits? Is it beer? We don't want it. It's not showing up on your explore page, you know?
Yep.
And so when you're competing against that, it's really hard. But so like I don't want to sell like a dream, but I do want to you know, say that you can be nimble and you can move fast and then give Logic his flowers because dude really is so freaking talented. Like
Logic is Logic's incredibly talented, great rapper, great producer. When I first met him, I was like, this guy's too nice. There's something up with him. I've told him this before. I'm like, no one's this nice, right? And then it turned out like he really just was, right? And makes really good music, built an incredible fan base. Really, with the exception of like the Suicide song, which blew up, like really made like kind of boom bap rap,
sure,
and became rich making boom bap rap, like basically, right? And for some reason, like people just would not get off the guy's back.
I think he's in a similar situation of the experience that like, you know, defending yourself to yourself and then to other people is so exhausting. And I think that like it's very possible, I wouldn't speak for him, but he's gotten to a place where he's just like, dude.
I hope so, and that's what I would hope for.
But he's such a student of the game as well,
big time student of the game.
He knows his shit in and out, and is so freaking talented and stuff. And it's like, you know, this is detrimental. I don't keep up with rap music at all, and like I actually didn't listen to Logic music at all. I don't
until he reached out to you.
No, I just know him as like a person, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like, oh, let me go back and listen to all Logic stuff. It's just like there would be stuff come through. We were, you know, freestyling, messing around in the back, and just like, and then I heard some of the Ultra 85 stuff. I'm just like, dude, you're so technically like you're just like,
oh, he's super.
Shit, bro.
That's but like, that was like when Joe Budden, Joe would always go with Logic, and I somehow ended up getting myself in the middle of it by defending Logic and calling Joe a dick as I'm wont to do because I know him well enough to know the very positive attributes of Joe that exist, and when he's just a dick. And I was like, I don't know who's out here saying Logic can't rap. Like to me, it was just a really wild decision, and it was a really great example of the internet groupthink of like people hear a thought and they're like, yeah, Logic sucks, dude. And I'm like, sucks at what?
You gotta pick somebody, right? It's like so. It's like these people have to. They have to complain about or hate on somebody.
Well, and he made himself an easy target because he was vulnerable.
Sure.
He was openly vulnerable about his racial identity, the confusion that it is to look like him, to have the parents that he has, to talk about it. You know, like,
but that's how the world makes him interesting.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Like, so it's so funny. I remember one of the criticisms of Logic was like, all right, we get it. Like, you're biracial. You're black and white. We get it. And it's like, nah, bro. That's not how art works. Like, that would be like going to Paul Simon. It's like, yeah, dude, we get it. Like, you get emotional over, like, losing a woman. It's like,
but that's also,
Marvin, we get it, dude. You love chicks.
But that's also not how, you know, Logic or anybody's experience works.
No.
They don't just go, everybody got it? All right, cool.
I'm glad I did the song on that.
Right.
You know, and by the way, and people don't ask that of other people. Like, hey, Jay, we get it, dude. You dealt drugs.
Sure.
Jay-Z has been an on the up and up businessman for like 25 years.
That's true.
We've been hearing about the period when he was a drug dealer, which was a blip in his life. We've heard about it forever. Yeah. And it sounded dope. But guess what? When it's about things that are seen as cool or edgy or street or whatever, people have a tendency to be like, give me more, give me more, give me more. Someone expressing their vulnerability repeatedly
for sure.
is like, all right, dude.
Yeah. I think for the most part, again, we all have our own shit, right? So it's like if it's not about me,
I don't know
care.
if you do. You seem very together, Asher. I know you have your own shit.
Yeah.
I do. I feel like you seem just very at peace.
I'm chilling, man.
Like, how does that
What
work?
are we?
And by the way, this sums up the thing I'll never forget about Asher. Was years and years ago, and I've told you this before, when Asher's album was about to come out, I got a call from some Jewish magazine, and they were like, hey, we wanted to ask you about Asher Roth. And I was like, okay. They're like, yeah, because, we're a Jewish, it was a pretty famous one. I don't remember which one, like the Jewish Week or the Jewish Times, whatever the fuck it was. And they were like, so like, we wanted to ask you about Asher because he's Jewish. And I was like, can I be honest? It's like, he's not really Jewish. And they were like, oh, what? And I was like, yeah, like, he's technically half Jewish. I was like, but I remember saying this to them. I was like, but as a Jewish person, you know in your brain which of your friends are Jewish and who's not. I'm not saying that his blood isn't half Jewish. I'm just saying he's not Jewish,
sure.
Right? Yeah. And I was like, that's just personality wise. Like
yeah.
he's a Gentile. Like I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's never rings more true than when I hear you say, I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
I've never met a Jew who's described their lives being like, I'm just chilling,
Well,
bro.
I mean, shit, dude, look what's going on out there. You know what I mean? What do we have to complain about right now? So,
it's such a fact. I mean, why not be chilling?
Yeah.
What do you live off of the most financially? Is it just like putting out music?
Yeah, I would say performing and, streaming and stuff like that. I own all
but not
my
streaming.
together.
But not again, not the first album.
Not Asleep in the Bread Aisle, no, man. That still is a drag. But it's a lesson to everybody that's getting into this is like separation of church and state.
By the way,
Can you re-record that?
yeah. By the way, Scooter's been involved in that before.
Yeah, I know the Asher version.
The Asher version
Yeah.
of hold on, real quick. If you type in Asher Roth on your Spotify, look what comes up first. I Love College, 126 million. Far and away your number one record on here. You don't make anything from this.
No, I don't.
I'm not saying that like I don't know what 126 million would give you, but it's something.
Yeah,
My Real Late album, which is here,
Yeah.
My Real Late album did not do that. And it still made me a few bucks. Like it's not a lot of money, but a few bucks come in here and there,
Hey,
right?
go
Like
to
you,
dinner.
126 million. What about the second biggest, which surprises me actually, is a song I love, is Grind, which has 11 million, to almost 12 million. Nothing for that either.
I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to get into, do you want to get into it?
Yeah, I think we should do it.
I'm very down. I mean, I always like, again, in my world, it's like we were talking about memory. It's like, it's always like, it would be good to have, whether it be Scooter or Allison or Steve Rifkin here as well to have the conversation.
Have you've never had the conversation with them out and out like a...
No, man. I mean, I definitely remember turning to Steve and being like, yo, Steve, like, where's this Asleep in the Bread Aisle like money? Where did it all go? And he's just like, I don't know. Either me or Scooter has it. And it's just like, what is going on?
Wait, so but in all the times when you and Scooter broke up and eventually stopped working, that was never a conversation of like, hey, but what about the money for the album?
Yeah, nah. See, that was the thing. It's like, okay. When the whole thing was just so laissez-faire initially. And that's why I think like when I reflect on it, it was just messy. And when I reflect on it, just disappointed that I didn't have somebody in my corner that was really looking out for me from a business standpoint. Just being like, long-term business standpoint. Let's make sure let's talk to you about mechanical royalties. Let's make sure you understand what you're doing when you're signing a publishing deal and all of this stuff. Everything early on was extremely fast and extremely kind of like aggressive. Like, if you don't do this now, it's going to go away. And I understand that stance in general because a lot of those deals are also leverage for other things for other people, right? And so when I signed a publishing deal for my first record and then a second record never came out, the kind of like team that I was working with at the time had kind of moved on after Asleep in the Bread Aisle. You know this. After when I was living in New York City, and doing seared foie gras with Quince and Cranberry, and like for that specific reason was because the team that I was working with had kind of moved on and Justin Bieber was like taking off. And so, cool. Back to the basics, white t-shirt and some motherfucking Asics. You know what I mean? Like that was the mood at the time. But in all of that happening, the business side doesn't go away contractually. So I'm like, off the excitement of I Love College and all of this like rhetoric that Asher Roth is a mainstay and a pop alternative artist in rap music. I think it was probably a 3-album deal or whatever, possibly even a 5. I would need to look at it. Wouldn't be shocked if it was a 5-album deal. You still have those obligations to fulfill, right? But SRC folds. So Steve Rifkin's joint venture that I'm signed with folds, and I kind of get just lost in the shuffle of the UMG umbrella.
Okay.
And so now I move over to Republic at the time, which is where Grind comes out. And so at the same time, they're like, I don't know, put him in with Pharrell. That's essentially what I'm hearing at the time. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what to do. Put him in with Pharrell. And no one cares about what the fuck I want to do. You know what I mean? It's just like, we need hit records. You know what I mean?
I forgot about the Pharrell shit.
The Pharrell shit, dude. The
Forgot
Pharrell
about
chapter.
that, right. Yeah,
and you think you could just get to go into the studio with Pharrell and the clock's not on? You know what I mean? Pharrell's getting paid no matter what. And so that is part of a budget. And so
What was that banger too?
Splish Splash? Is that
Was this Splish Splash?
hopefully not?
No, there was one I really fucked with. There was a good one. There was a good one or
There's
two.
a couple. I'm happy that stuff never came out because I wanted to do something on the Far Side tip. And I remember, talking to Pharrell about it, and he was just like, "You not right now. You got to do this first." That was always the conversation, whether it was through Scooter or Pharrell. And like that conversation actually, that like coaching, do this first, ruined my experience with Q-Tip. Because I ended up getting with Q-Tip, who was like, my dude, like as far as just like the world that I want to be in, you know what I mean? Whether it be, just good music, but also theater and, just being a part of culture. And here I am getting in with Q-Tip, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I have like Scooter and Pharrell in the back of my mind. He's like, name a song that like, that you, and I'm like in panic mode, and I'm like, I don't know, like For the Nasty, something like that. And he just goes, I fucking hate that song. And I'm just like, oh my God, just ruining like what could be a true
I
experience.
can't believe that that's what you.
Can you believe that, dude?
I mean, even if you'd said Vibrant, it's like at least it would have been.
Can you believe that, dude?
For the Nasty, for people listening, going, what is that? What are you talking about? It's a Q-Tip Universal single.
Completely.
Way later,
And
like that you don't remember, and he wouldn't perform. And
because it's clearly a record that was like, we need something like this type beat.
you know why? Because Q-Tip, who you guys have a lot of similarities, Q-Tip, this all comes after his Kamal the Abstract album, where he was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. They're like, give us Vibrant again. And he's like, nah, I'm making Kamal the Abstract. And then I think For the Nasty then comes after that. So as a result, what did you and Q-Tip end up doing?
He actually laced me with some shit. I wasn't ready for it. I still have it, I think, on a hard drive.
I feel like I've heard something.
Dude, he gave me 2 joints that are just like so dope. And there's one joint that has a hook on it that's about like kind of him flipping, talking about our generation. And it's just like, for me, I almost basically overthought it. It's like, this needs to be so poignant and also like almost like a Beatles song, that you can't overwrite this song, because you're basically speaking for an entire generation. It was like, people of the world committing crimes, talking about our generation. You get yours and I'll get mine, talking about our generation.
Was he on the chorus doing it?
That's his hook, yeah. Folks online killing their TVs, talking about our generation. This is just my reality. My generation.
Oh, I got to hear this, bro.
It's so fire,
By the way, then they put then if you remember on Tribe's last album, they had a song called "This Generation."
Is that right? Yeah. That makes sense. And so, I just wasn't ready, and I just like totally botched that exchange in like artistry, because he's just like, to me, that's a world that I feel like is like, that's my Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? And anybody who knows me is like, oh, yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Those are the people on Asher's Mount Rushmore. It's like Mos Def is in there, Black Thought and the Roots. You know what I mean? Like those are the guys that I look at. I'm like, these guys are still making music and aging gracefully and being people, not caught up in all of the rah rah.
So you're now in. So you're in the Universal Republic thing.
Just lost in space, you know. And I've
Who's your person at that point?
Nobody.
And Scoot's not paying attention anymore.
No, the main champion for me at the time of the grind record was Rich Isaacson, which I don't know.
Who's Steve's former partner from
right.
SRC.
He was probably, you know, I would say that he was a big champion of grind, and I think, you know,
I remember the day that DJ Enough premiered it on Hot.
Yeah, dude.
Made it like a movie.
Still dope to this day, you know?
Great song.
So it's like, you know, but again, not attached to any project.
Let me give the people a taste for a second in case they don't remember.
Yeah.
Because grind kind of ended up under the radar in the grand scheme of things. Really good too. I was in my apartment on 86th Street listening to this on my clock radio.
1500 or nothing.
Because Enough premiered it with Angie.
Yeah, yo, this one's for the people. All the bees that are bleeding and sleeping and eat shit, breathe. I thought we all equal. Ain't a man on the God's green bee underneath any other. I don't wanna play preacher, but I swear they turn their ear when we talk about peace and love. Sometimes might need a hug. Yeah, we all wanna come on up above, but this ain't about Jesus. No way, no Abe, no Ike, Moses or Muhammad. Yeah, it's all about believing. Full steam ahead because you know the worst times are behind me. I don't wanna sound cheesy, but it's just to really mean it. Yeah, I'm telling I can feel it. It's the reason I don't sleep. I'll be way too geek tonight. This one's for all of y'all. I'm the same as all of y'all. I'm on my shit. I work real hard enough for every little bit that I get, but this is all I need. So sing this song with me. It goes like, so it sound like this. Everybody start clapping hands. It's like I've been on my grind. I can only grind.
They suck. By the way, they fucking suck. Universal Republic, you fucking suck for dropping the ball. Yo, if that song had come out later and had been Wiz or Mac or anyone else who'd had had momentum, that's exactly what you should have evolved from post Asleep in the Bread Aisle. You found it. Like that record is it.
1500 nothing, by the way, you know.
Yeah. And that was early. That was pretty early.
I was just again, James Fauntleroy, all those cats like were part of dope shit as well of Paps and Jazz. So like, you're right. I mean, again, timing has so much to do with so much, you know. And I think like a lot of the time in my timeline, I've just been a little bit too early. And that's not like a testament. I'm not like, oh, dude, you know,
because I'm so ahead of things. It's just the way it goes.
But I'm also in the same boat, like in my fantasy sports world. You know what I mean? Or when people are running a franchise. A year too early than a year too late. I'm into that, you know what I mean? But for some reason in our world, in the entertainment world, a year too late, you're good. I mean, if you're just emulating what somebody else is doing, you know
might
what I mean?
Be good.
You're just like, oh, that's cool. I'm familiar with this. It's cool. So when you're on the early side of it, it usually takes a little bit of people to say.
My year too early shit is the podcasting shit.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, you know, a Logic, for example, was able to get really rich making great like boom bap rap. Do you know how many podcasters came along
For sure.
and they got rich doing things similar to Juan Epstein?
Absolutely.
Right? But like, the timing wasn't right.
Timing is huge, a huge thing in all of this, and a little bit of luck. And you do really have to have a bulldog. Like you have to have.
So let's get back to the story then.
Yeah.
So at this point, all you really have is Rich Isaacson in the building.
I mean, and not even. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, yeah. It's basically at that point anybody who's had the experience of working in a major label, working with a major label and not being a priority.
So who's handling your actual business at that time? Who's picking up the phone for you to like call the label and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
I don't really recall anybody, you know, truly, because if you look at it, like if you look at the timeline, everything is self-released. Paps and Jazz is self-released, and Paps and Jazz, putting Paps and Jazz out on my own with Blending Babies, sitting in LA, moving to LA. And putting that record together, that's when the Def Jam chapter happened. Because they were like, oh, because again, I'm still like under contract. But like, what am I supposed to do? Just twiddle my thumbs and like wait for something to happen?
Is Dave Appleton still working with you at that point? So, but like as your day-to-day, just as like your guy?
Yeah, I don't know if Appleton was part of Paps and Jazz. I know Appleton was for sure part of Retro Hash.
Okay.
Because Retro Hash was like this weird moment that like, you know, the SB team was kind of like, you know, we'll put this out. Like Scooter told me, he's like, you sure you want to do this, even though no one's gonna hear this album? I was like, yeah. And so like he was like his stance on it was like I'm doing this for you, kind of thing. But I thought Retro Hash was a really defining record for a lot of different reasons. It's like my foray into starting to explore my voice a little bit more.
Wait, and is Retro Hash Def Jam?
No, Retro Hash is the beginning of my self-release stuff. So
Retro Hash is 2014.
yeah,
I remember getting the vinyl for this. And again, you had
Vic Mensa's on that.
and by the way, Tangerine Girl could have been a thing.
Tangerine Girl, first off, is a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
all you gotta do is leave the country, and even
Really?
go to some places. People that love to dance.
This is a
dude.
Great tune,
It's
dude.
a jam, bro.
Nat, you'll like the song too. This is what She Don't Want a Man should have been.
Feel me?
Yeah. But you need time to develop finding that bag.
Feel me?
You gotta find that. You weren't. This album has bangers, bro. Again, a little early too. On the just singing, on the just straight up. Wait, he sings? He just sings
early,
that?
Pete.
By the way, don't forget about this too.
Yeah, this is the jam though. Currency.
This was in heavy relay rotation right here.
Dude, yeah, chillin' in some shorts, sipping on a cold one, sitting on the porch. Only chopsticks, I don't ever use a fork. Go for it, little.
All right, so
dork.
this is post.
This
go
is
ahead.
great. This is great.
Right.
So I'll never forget XXL writes a review of Retro Hash and says, nobody cares about Asher Roth's reinvention. The only good songs, dude. And that's like, again, goes back to the whole defending yourself to yourself and defending yourself. I was like, nobody is on my team. Because this is off of being XXL freshman. Not that far off. I mean, maybe a handful of years.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the Asher Roth reinvention. Dude's the only good song. Dude's washed. Not even imaginative at all to say, this is pretty interesting that someone's taking their... Nobody cares about artist development. It's just like, give us something that we know and give us what we know that you do type situation.
Yeah, who do you think you are? You're not dope enough to get to reinvent.
Not only that, dude, like when even Sonics, right? Retro Hash on vinyl sounds so good. Like when you start that record and Parties at the Disco comes on, it's just like, yo, this is a great record. So anyway, on the timeline of things, Paps and Jazz, actually, if you go and you watch Common Knowledge video, Aristotle Torres, are you familiar with Aristotle?
Yeah, I remember Aristotle, sure.
He's probably my biggest advocate at the time because he got brought in by Def Jam. Was like, yo, you need to work with this kid. So Aristotle's story is really interesting because he was working with J. Cole very early on.
Aristotle was doing a lot of cool shit.
Dude.
What is Aristotle doing right now?
He's here. I mean, I'm sure. Last time I know, he shot a movie. He made a movie, and it was doing well. He
Super talented dude.
He had left the music video world and had gone on to shoot movies, but he got in trouble. And again, it would be another great person to have on during the conversation for them to tell their own perspective on the thing. But he got in trouble with Def Jam at the time because he's got like managerial bones in his body that they were like, you're putting bad ideas into Asher's head or whatever it may be about like rebellion, you know what I mean? But he shot the Common Knowledge video, and we just got along really well because we have a similar, a view on the world. And again, we're still friends to this day. So that happens, but again, like nothing. What's on Paps and Jazz is a cool record. I think that's like a staple for a lot of people who weren't like overly in love with Asleep in the Bread Aisle, but they were like, oh, Paps and Jazz. Like, so when I talk to my fan base, they're like, Paps and Jazz is my starting point. And Retro Hash is like, as far as when we talk about music business, when we're talking about publishing and streaming and what I live off of, Retro Hash on is everything that I own.
Retro Hash on is everything.
So this is like, again, if you want to get into it, and you can edit this stuff out if you want, and it just is what it is.
Okay.
Is that like, because my album deal had like Paps and Jazz didn't count towards it, the Pharrell budget, I was spending a bunch of money on music that didn't come out. There's just this like bill, there, and I'm clearly not part of this world at all. And Scooter's got to become a person that is like has sway and influence, right? So the conversation is just like, just let me go. You know what I mean? Just let me go at this point. It's ridiculous, And so essentially that happens in some way, shape, or form contractually. But publishing, same thing. So I have a picture that I can send to you of when we signed the agreement to be like, I'm out of this Universal Music Group world. And on to my own thing. And this is right around 2014, 15, which is Retro Hash. Kind of been independent, operating since like 2011. And so 2014, 15 rolls around, just let me go, please. Anyway, we get to a point with the publishing side of things, and it's just like there was no end to the publishing agreement, essentially. That Scooter had told me I was out of my agreement, and I was operating as if I was out of my agreement. But essentially, legally, Universal could stake claim to Retro Hash, Flowers on the Weekend, everything that I'd essentially done on my own. And so it takes human conversations to be like, is this morally the way you want to go about this, essentially? Is this really what we're going to have?
Right, I am this artist who you had all given up on. I went and made music on my own.
Dude.
And because of the way the deal was structured, you just want to collect the money, even though you had nothing to do with any of it. And in fact, I was making this music because I was being ignored by you.
This is what colors my experience to the whole thing. When you ask me about gratitude, you know what I mean? Like this, because I've had all of this experience, but when it came to like this kind of like open-ended deal that essentially legally at any point, Universal or whoever could just say, actually, so we needed to have that legally clarified. And so when we go back to I say all this because of Grind, Universal went back and basically kind of picked the songs that had done well on streaming and said, we're going to take these and you can take everything after that. So I'm actually pretty grateful they didn't take Tangerine Girl or Dude or Fast Life or any of those joints. So it's like I'm grateful that there was an understanding that like, just don't take Retro Hash and beyond, because it's so obvious that.
Can I say the quiet part out loud? But like, and and I say this, and I'm if I bump into him, if I happen to talk to him for some reason, like you, I think I'm still friendly with Scooter, and have positive things to say about him and my experiences with him. Had some great nights with him for sure.
Absolutely.
Great moments. But like, you're such an essential piece. I'm going to say the part that you can't say. Mm-hmm. You are such an essential piece in the story of him becoming one of the biggest executives in music. You know what I mean? And I guess it just surprises me that at no point would he like pick up the phone and be like, yo, and maybe he did this. How can I make this whole thing right? I know you're not angry. I know you're not talking shit about me. I'm sitting on like 300, 400 million right now. I'm on my way to being a billionaire. Sure. Like my money is in places that God only knows where. The Scooter has money that makes money. Like Scooter's money makes more money than you and I will ever make, right?
I would say that's probably.
And that's not even all the money. That's just pieces of the money. He has money that he's forgotten about that's probably making more. So like, it does surprise me that like, he wouldn't be like, let me holler at him a bit. Let me just hit, yo, send me your Venmo real quick.
So I reached out to Scooter when I was out in LA, and we went. I sat with him, and just to like touch base, because I think even through text messaging, again, we talk about the digital stuff. So much in the communication side of things gets lost, and so we talked about stuff. I think for me, again, like I don't want to live in the past. It's always about like, okay, cool, let's acknowledge it, let's reflect on it, and that's all good. But it's like, where are we moving forward? When I reflect on the past, the main thing that I'm disappointed about is like, I feel like I got punished for doing a good job. I did my job. You signed me to
Which part are you referring to that you did a good job at?
putting out a successful single and album.
Pretty good debut album.
A pretty good debut album.
Went and did shows that were well received.
Absolutely.
You were a good live performer
Good
from the very
live
beginning.
performer,
You weren't
exactly.
getting fucked up and stupid and missing shit.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you were never a pain in the ass. I'm sure you were.
Yeah. I was
but
a
not
22-year-old kid.
Yeah, but you weren't not aggressively a pain in the ass.
I was fulfilling my obligations, and I would, you would hope that you would put yourself in a position to like keep going, And so that's the only thing is like, damn, I feel like all of this messy stuff that happened, it's like I did what I was asked to do, essentially. And when he and I spoke recently, I'll probably say a year ago, it might even be 2 years at this point. He had expressed interest of just like, well, if you want to do something again down the road, let me know. You know what I mean? It's not as simple as a quick fix of like, yo, here's $1 million. You know what I mean?
I know. Well, that's my job. That's
yeah.
my job as a basic bitch, as a messy bitch, to just bring it up. Just why don't you just Venmo on my meals? Huh?
But Tunji told me the same thing. You know what I mean? People
will say like, hey,
Yeah.
and by the way, they probably mean it.
Yeah.
But here's the hard part. What is the thing that and by the way, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've thought in my brain before because I feel like I've looked at, not certainly the way you did, but I had my moments of looking out for Scoot over the years too. Sure. I've thought, when do I pick up the phone and be like, yo, Scooter, I could use help with blank. It's very hard to know how to do that with someone of that level of power.
Well, also, here's the thing is like, I think it's important from a human side of things is like, Scooter has done a lot for a lot of people. He's a good dude.
He is.
He's a good dude, and he's done a lot for a lot of people. Now, that's not to take away from the fact that like our early dealings as kids was messy. Nobody would argue with that. And I don't harbor any ill will because I know that ambition and it was honest. You know what I mean? Maybe there's some lies and some half truths along the way, but like, would he have done anything differently? Who knows?
He did sincerely want you to win,
dude.
He put in hardcore hours to try to get you to win.
That's another thing that needs to be acknowledged. Is like when Scooter was all the way there, and when he's all the way into something, you're probably not going to lose. He's just he's
unstoppable. He didn't get here by accident.
No. And talk about a bulldog. It's having a bulldog on your team is like he's and so I know that's exhausted him as well, working that hard, and now he gets to enjoy his life. But also so many people ask Scooter for things and want things from him. And that's got to be exhausting. Talking about defending yourself to yourself, but also it's like Scooter doesn't want to be known for the amount of money that he has. Scooter doesn't want to be known for those things or being, somebody's manager or all of these things. Nobody really talks about his sacrifices and all of the things that he had to do for a lot of the time, myself included, people who are kind of unappreciative of the work that goes in because, when you're trying to get somebody in a seat to be able to talk, again, like you said, you're lucky to be here. There's so much like nuance that goes in specifically, typically from a managerial position to make that happen. Getting me on the XXL shoot kind of late, getting me to perform at the Woodies, at MTV Woodies, kind of late, you know what I mean? Because he's so compelling and being like, this kid is important. And after Scooter kind of dipped, there was nobody else out there saying this kid is important, and I'm not the one to be cheerleading on myself. You know what I mean?
And there's certainly not anybody who could do it the way he could do it.
For sure.
He was watching Scooter's ascent was watching a fucking rocket ship.
Yeah.
And like it was,
and still really bizarre for me because, spending time in Atlanta and sleeping on his couch and getting to know Scooter really well as like a dude.
I mean, you guys were literally together constantly.
Yeah, I would honestly say we are friends. Like we're close friends.
But at that point you were together constantly.
All the time. And so it's still bizarre. Even Justin, like seeing the homies like be the biggest in the world. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre experience. Like objectively. The same thing, it's like Christian McCaffrey when I'm talking about joking about that. It's just like, it's just the homie. It's like, oh yeah, the reigning offensive player of the year.
Yeah, but Bieber's way crazier.
Yeah.
Because Christian McCaffrey knows you for the same reason a lot of athletes would know someone, right?
True.
Like a reference on a record. So they met.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber was running around in the place that you lived.
Yeah.
Banging on drums. And you being like, you kind of trying to put him on game as a kid.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's just awesome because it seems so, it does.
What's it like when was the last time you saw Justin?
It's been a while, man. Just because I've been on the East Coast. We played chess not too long ago. You know what? I think, he reached out to me.
By the way, based on your outfit, you look like you should be playing chess with
Dude,
Justin Bieber.
I'm just trying to get better at chess. I'm just not seeing the board well right now at all. But you know what? Justin and Scooter, honestly, in 2020, Flowers on the Weekend album, and specifically Flowers on the Weekend song, Justin reached out. I was like, dude, it's so good to hear you rapping again, which is what's so interesting about it all is like, there's whether it be stuff that comes before it or stuff that comes out after it. It's like, what is the stuff that people actually end up hearing because of the algorithms or their time, their attention?
Because you're like, I've been rapping.
Well, not only that, it's just like, why this album? You know what I mean? I think my most complete body of work so far is probably Flowers on the Weekend.
So it does make sense in some ways.
Yeah. I just think it's so interesting, and again, like super cool for Justin to just say, man, this is awesome. And so
I've always felt this, and Flowers of the Weekend is a dope project, and you can also stream that everywhere. And you were also early. You were also very early on the realizing that Lil Yachty was dope.
Dude, holy shit. He is super dope.
I mean,
And,
now
like,
people know.
Blew my head on when he like sent the verse back and just like the melodies and stuff that he can find. I'm like, this new generation of kids, they're just a different frequency.
Yeah, so this is when Yachty he had not yet done anything that people would know he was super dope from yet, right?
Yeah, so
he done the popular internet shit.
I don't know. I mean, again, like I'm so removed from
what the timeline. So how'd you even get up on Yachty?
Well, it's just like, again, unique, interesting, exciting artist. Like, it's him when he's on a record. Like, that stuff appeals to me.
And he thought you were dope, right?
Maybe.
He was. I feel like I know this.
I think that you know what it was? Because he referenced me in a rap song.
That's how I know. Yeah.
He referenced me, and I thought that was cool. And so I was just like, yo, man, if it comes up, and then
so he's already a couple years into it because wow, time fucking flies,
dude,
bro.
It's
That's
crazy, right?
the problem is that's why I'm off here.
Yeah.
Because Teenage Emotions came out in 2017.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's a long time ago. And then, of course, his last album, which is now already a couple years old, that's what finally got people to really understand how good he was.
Yeah, well, he was allowed to, go wherever he wanted to go, Psych rock.
This Let's Start Here album is.
I'm so far gone. Can you take me back home?
I love Yachty. I really love Yachty, man. Great kid and so fucking talented.
Portland, Tape Echo.
I got to tell you, it does still bother me that there was never a real opportunity for you and Mac to collaborate.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, and that it went through the Boyfriend remix. You know what I mean? If you
I know,
remember that.
well, I know that it happened.
Yeah.
Is that out? Is that like a?
Yeah, it came out. I mean,
it's a commercial.
Yeah, that's sad. But
It's you, Mac, Bieber,
dude,
and who else?
Mac is his like evolve. Like it's just
His evolution is one of the
Yeah,
greatest we've ever seen.
it's really so dope to watch that take place. Because we don't truly, oftentimes in this generation, get to see that happen.
It's interesting too because you guys evolved in such different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like you went different places musically, but ultimately a lot of your evolution was just getting better and better with the raps.
Sure.
Justin certainly improved. I mean, Mac certainly improved as a rapper, but his evolution obviously went into this production and playing, and the place that he got to by the time he passed away is so phenomenally good.
Yeah.
And I never, as much as I always liked him and thought he was a good kid, and I was like, oh, when he produced his second album, like real album, and like the Watching Movies album, and I'm like, oh, he's like a pretty good producer.
Yeah.
I still don't think I knew that the next step was going to be like this whole other thing. And I just feel like you guys could have found a really fun, I don't know when
Sure.
it would have happened, like maybe it would have been some random, but I really always believed at some point you guys would have crossed paths in a more real way.
Yeah, I remember Arthur Pitts. Is it Pitts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Arthur.
From Rostrum.
Rostrum. And I remember he was kind of like bullying me online a little bit, not for nothing.
What
Yeah. So I remember something, and I was definitely living in LA, and I was with the shorty at the time, and so this is after Retro Hash. So this is probably 2015.
Okay.
He's bullying me online, whatever.
What do you mean? Like
saying
using
whack
you as
shit.
the butt of a joke?
Yeah, he
like-
knows. I mean, if you're talking to me, like, yeah, I was just being an asshole.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Anyway, we ended up linking up, Arthur and I, and just talking. And he was just like, dude, you and Mac would get along so well, And so again, timing is everything, man. I'm just a little bit older. The generation of kids out, like I was in the whiz camp, you know what I mean? And so all those kids, the kids like that came after us, it seemed like they were having so much fun, man, because they're all hanging out and working together. That's like some California Laurel Canyon shit.
Correct.
You know what I
And
mean?
well, by the way, Mac was such a central figure.
Yeah, inspiring each other. And Mac was one of those people who would reach out to you, kind of what I was talking about with Logic, and just be like, yo, you're dope. I'm such a huge fan. And like, it's amazing how how much that opens up your world and how many friends you could make by saying that. By being a fan of somebody else, God forbid.
I know, and opening up to that. How many personal experiences did you have with him?
Not many. I mean, he called me when I was driving once, and we just kind of laughed about it. Happened to been, the Boyfriend remix that like had brought us together. But we were kind of pitted against each other early on, which is like silly that anybody would like kind of pits me up against anybody.
Right. Yeah, it's not your energy at all. Or his.
Yeah,
it's like really counter to both of your energies.
And so, yeah, but at this, again, just timing. And at that point, I think that, Mac had really kind of caught one and was really focused on what he was doing. And so at that point, I was really just, a fan of what it was like, of watching an artist get to develop. It's like my favorite thing. And that was another thing that Arthur told me. He's like, it's a shame, man, you're put in the microwave. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, I'm doing my own thing and developing, and it might be a longer period of time. It doesn't happen as fast, but we just really don't get to watch artists develop and go into a place where the music and the content and the presentation and all of this actually takes precedent. It's usually get as much money as you can before this runs out, and
well, respectfully to Rostrum and everybody else and to Scooter, when he eventually ended up with the Clancys,
that's right.
He got to the perfect place.
Dude, artist development is so dope. Just allowing somebody to bloom.
Like, hey, we'll help you with the business. I mean, if you look at what the Clancys did for Tyler and Odd Future, and you look at what they did for Malcolm, they in both cases were just, we'll handle what we have to handle. We'll always put you in a good spot. You make the music that you make,
Absolutely.
And yeah, you just don't see it all the time. I feel like we've gotten to watch some cool stuff recently with TDE and how SZA developed and how Doechie's developing now.
That's right.
Like you do have spots where it happens.
Absolutely. It's so dope. It's so special watching a flower bloom.
Yeah, and I think about you and Mac a lot, not only because of like I met you both in similar ways, me being a dickhead, curmudgeon, elder, statesman, white guy, and then becoming friends with both of you, but also because of the way your lives panned out, right? And like I think about like how Mac was like the shooting star, and he kept going and going and developing, but obviously had his own demons and issues that were really hard for him. But he had this incredible success in music, right? And your path musically was totally different. And you had to go through like into these other, valleys. But there is something that you lucked into that protected you in a weird way, right? Like, Mac was pretty open about his struggles with drugs and alcohol and always trying to like kick it, right? And kind of never being able to, as we know, fully kind of kick it. And you had these struggles professionally, but were able to completely avoid and you just didn't catch that bug, right? Like the drugs and alcohol thing and the addiction problem, like you've always had this piece about you. And so I just end up thinking about you guys in these like sort of contradicting situations, like two half Jewish, although Mac Jewish.
I think his mother's Jewish.
Yeah,
which is like,
yeah, it's different. No, he comes off as actually Jewish.
Right.
It's in there. But two half Jewish kids from Pennsylvania who both like loved it. And the same way, you put out a project with Knots and you want, and dude, if you look at Asher's albums over every album you've done, you're such a great fucking A&R too. Like your ear for finding so many talented people over the years and putting people onto them. Mac, same thing. Always wanted to like make his record with DJ Premier, has a big L tattoo. Like he's committed to his shit. And then also his ear, like if you go through the list of people, whether it's the SZAs or the Thundercats or the Rhapsodies or the Earls, like the Vinces, the people who he helped get started, like you guys are such a credit to what it's supposed to be as guests of the culture, in my opinion. And I hope that in any way I can do a modicum of the job you guys have done as guests of the culture, giving to it and being like, I recognize the privilege that I have, the opportunities that I get, and I'm going to do my best to like give other people who might not get that light the opportunity to shine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's just like, honestly, if you're white and you want to get to be in this thing and benefit off of something that really is based off of the black struggle, I feel like the token that you have to pay forward is that. Like, I really do think like it's almost, I'm not saying it's like an obligation, but in some ways a moral obligation to be like, how else do we contribute? Because we come to the table with privilege.
Yeah. I think other people probably have to, will remind you of that for sure. I think it's really more so about like, who's dope? Who do I like? Who am I a fan of? And so that's what I admire so much of, Mac and artists like him. I just like, dude, I remember going to a pool party in Los Angeles with my friend Liz. And this is like related but unrelated.
Okay.
And we were like, this sucks at the same time. So we're like, you know what? Let's just compliment as many people as we can. Honestly. Let's go through it. Oh, I really like your scarf. Oh, great shoes. You know what I mean? Just like going through and just like, but being genuine. And people were into it. It was nice for them to be complimented. By the time we were leaving.
Nobody knew that you were complimenting
No.
everybody.
No.
We were doing it individually.
We were just saying nice things to people as we went.
All right.
When we left the party, the whole place knew who we were, and they were like, "Peace out, good to see you." Like, and we had made so many friends, and I think that that's something that's like not missing. I don't know, again, because I'm kind of out of the loop a little bit, but YTD is so cool, or all these people, like specifically kind of Mac, of like telling somebody else how dope they are and that you want to work with them. And it's the same thing with like Logic reaching out and being like, "Yo, you're such a," like it's like sharing that light is such a pivotal thing to do. And I think it's dangerous if we get into a place that we're so consumed in our own stuff and we're not telling other people that they're really special and that they're dope, because it keeps you going. And so if
it happens to you, you see the value for you. How do you not to turn around and do it to someone else is so important.
I love music discovery through other artists. Again, hip hop, right? Like samples. You're learning about someone's musical taste through some of the music that they've sampled, and you're learning about other artists through who they've sampled and stuff. So just a treat, man. It's a treat to watch other people, be love, And I think that I can't speak from Mac because I don't know him well, and I just know that they've done a really nice job protecting his kind of estate as he goes, and like it's been very tasteful.
It has. They've done a good job, and they're about to drop again.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that his spirit obviously remains strong, and also it's just like I think him and other people like him to know that they were loved while they were here. Probably is mission accomplished. You know what I mean? For the short time that you're here, we get 90 if we're really super duper lucky. We get 90 years,
If you're super duper.
If you're the superest of luckiest. So yeah, I think that the goal with it all is to live a life similar to that, where you're kind of like telling other people that they're great.
And he did it so well in 25.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. Asher, I would love if we didn't wait 10 years or so to do this again.
For sure, man. I'm not too far away, just down there, 95. And, you know, baseball season. Let me know what you want to do, dude. Are you a Nationals fan? Oh, you're a fraud.
I'm a fraud. I'm an Orioles fan. I'm an Orioles fan in theory, but like
no DC, huh? I'm honestly really into what the Nationals are building, for what it's worth.
I mean,
they're dope, dude. I would
Really?
just say maybe get on the Nationals.
But here's the problem. It's I have too much going on. I married this woman from Queens. She's a fraud too. She likes the Mets. She likes the Yankees.
Well, good time to be a Mets fan. It's nice when people are just spending money.
Yeah, no, the Mets
There's
are
a lot of money out there. Yeah.
Mets are popping, but I spent the last 8+ years on the Yankees channel here in New York. So like I was very and working with the voice of the Yankees.
I remember asking you, you're just like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah, I just got thrown into this. Like I'm now part of the Yankee world.
I love it.
So like I end up like kind of having this interest I have to have in the Yankees and Mets.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up being like I keep my eye on the Orioles.
Good time to be an Orioles fan.
The Orioles are dope.
Sorta. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they go about it. I mean, their talent is right.
Bro, listen, you're talking about the wrong sport. I'm focused on one.
What do you got? Commanders?
That's all I'm focused on, bro.
Okay.
What else would I be focused on?
I don't know, dude. In my world, I don't want to get into it.
What were you gonna say?
Just the NFL. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, of course.
A lot of bad teams. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Well, you feel that with this year.
Yeah, I mean, look,
this is the one time I talk to you when your team sucks, and you're down on the NFL right now.
Truly a heartbroken 49er fan, but no,
for 1 year.
No,
you guys will be 12-5 next year.
It goes beyond that. It goes. You know, do you want to get in this? Are we allowed to get in this? We're going to get into this for 5.
Okay.
It goes so deep to being a 49ers fan, and the calls that go against us in certain times, specifically in 19, Jimmy Garoppolo closing out the first half, and the offensive pass interference on George Kittle when the Niners are rolling in the Super Bowl. Just the way that they call the game, even being in Philadelphia and watching the Eagles game, the Eagles-Chiefs game get called when they called the defensive holding. Now, granted, but you're not calling that all game. I just don't like the way that the referees have so much influence on an NFL game and the outcome of it. Now,
it is brutal.
It's brutal.
More than any sport.
It's
for sure.
Brutal. And so, like my loyalty and love and my first love, because I played the game, has turned to baseball. You get your money's worth. 162 games, beautiful ballparks. The architecture is magnificent. You know what I mean?
So you've been taken out of football somewhat by the referees?
I mean, it's just like, it's a
gross game for a lot of ways.
Let's just put it this way.
A lot of reasons.
I did not play fantasy football this year, and I felt great. It was awesome. And I missed some games. I actually, again, a lot of it has to do with the product on the field. I knew that this year was going to be a bad year for the 49ers. It started bad with the IU holdout. Then there's terrible things. I mean, people losing children.
Horrible story.
It was really tough year for
it was a negative
It was
year
a bad year, dude. Ricky Pearsall got shot in the chest to open up. Like, the whole thing was bad. And then I watched like the second game or third game of the season. I was like, oh, this is going to be a rough year. Rookie defensive coordinator, all of these things. So we'll reload in the draft. I think the Niners should draft a really strong DT. I think you got to be able to stop the run. The NFL is still sexy and fun, and there's nothing better in January football when your team is winning. That's why you're gassed right now.
It's
and you've got a fantastic young quarterback who's exciting to watch.
Well, but even beyond that, the impossible happened with my ownership changing.
Yeah, but like
that's an impossibility.
Now what do we get? Josh Harris rubbing his hands, rooting for the Washington Commanders, and also owns the Sixers.
I know.
It's too much money in sports, dude. Don't get me started.
I know.
Too much money in sports.
I know that is a weird concept.
Super weird.
But I can't think about that.
Yeah,
I was owned by a horrible like Josh Harris is. Josh Harris appears to me to be a somewhat like socially weird guy.
Yeah,
he's fine. I was owned by a monster.
Dan Snyder,
he's not. I was literally a monster. And I thought Asher. I was like, he's like 15 years older than me. So I thought Dan Snyder would be owning them. Like I'd be 65, and he'd be 80 and still owning the team. Like, it was my whole life.
Is there a world, I don't know if this is just internet grumblings because this is all hearsay. Did they talk about wanting to change the commander's name again back to something Native American?
That is a constantly made up internet conversation.
All right. So the
there
commanders
people,
are here.
There are people who really don't like the name. I don't care. It's what doesn't matter to me.
Want to know why I'm down with the commanders?
Go ahead.
Adam Peters.
Yeah,
GM.
of course. Yeah, I could have figured that out. If you'd give me 3 seconds, I would have told you that.
I'm a big Adam Peters fan. I was a fan when he was in our front office for a while.
Well,
our front office.
I'm a huge fan of him now as well.
He's a beast, dude.
But is there a chance they would change the name again? Yes. Is there a chance it would ever have any Native American connotation? Absolutely not.
Okay.
If they were to change it, I think the only option they'd have, because there's already been too many changes, that if they wanted to lose Commanders and go back to football team, I think people ended up liking that.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah.
At first,
Did
we were
buy
like,
any gear?
Oh, I have.
Sick.
I have
That'll
a
age well,
dude. I have a white pullover starter jacket, Washington football team on fire. But there are people who would go back to that. But like, honestly, to me, it's like people overthink it, bro. You know, when your name starts to connect, when you have a couple of great winning years with that name,
you go, dude.
like that's it.
There you go.
All I wanted was get rid of the owner and get rid of this racist name. Both of these things are like hurting my conscience.
So you're all
They're
the way
both
in.
gone. They're both gone. And then we draft this kid who's maybe the most fun player to watch in the NFL.
Yeah.
His arm is crazy. His ability to run is crazy. I want to protect him. He needs weapons, but he's
have fun. I mean, who I don't think the schedule. You don't know who.
no. We got to win tomorrow to keep our seating where we want it. So,
but you're in.
No, we're done. We're clinched.
That's so fun, man. You guys get a little playoff football.
Dude, for the first time, the last time we did it was sitting right here in 2020 when they were the football team with Taylor Heineke. But even that, it was a joke here. We were like 8 and 9 and got this is we might finish 12 and 5. Like it's a real football team.
Yeah, and then you just recently beat the Eagles, right? That was the game where Jalen Hurts got hurt?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
It's a bit of an asterisk, but I'll take it.
You got a little thing going on, man.
No, we got a thing going on. I mean, listen, I'd say I feel bad for you, but I don't. Because you guys are literally perennially great.
Well, it wasn't always that way. Just know. It wasn't
kind of always been that way.
It's not true. We had a really tough time. Tim Rattay, Drunken Miller, Jeff Garcia was super.
I mean, even then though, even the Jeff Garcia years, like they weren't horrible in those years. Those were the T.O. years.
We had T.O. Yeah.
Hey, Asher Roth has great music available everywhere as we speak. Most recently, Temporary Heaven, which is a dope project with Heather Gray.
Yeah.
It's really a great listen. Homeboy Sandman is on there.
That's right.
You want to spit a little rhyme for the people?
Yeah, dude. I will recap what we just talked about
In a rhyme.
In rhyme form.
Here we go. All right.